Cecil Adams is a cynical, reclusive genius. But for over 2 decades, he's been answering questions on any and every subject sent in by you, the teeming millions. Now, even more of you will have access to Cecil's brilliance. Prepare yourself. You're about to get a dose of the straight dope.
Hey, welcome to The Straight Dope. My name is Mike Lukas, and I know why you're here. You've got questions that have been burning a hole in your gut, and you want answers, you want the truth. Give it to me. Well, that's exactly what you're going to get here. My boss, the legendary recluse Cecil Adams, has dedicated his whole life to providing you, the teeming millions, with the straight dope on any and every subject. Today, we'll show you what goes on behind the scenes at a funeral home. Also, what are those weird number stations on the radio? What about those ridges beneath your nose? And we'll have the truth about hair growth. But first, a question about chimps.
Cool.
Try that one.
Oh, man!
Dear Cecil, when I was 14, I saw a 90-pound monkey who could literally pick a grown man up and toss him right out of a boxing ring. The audience was challenged to stay in the ring for 3 minutes to win $100. I saw these 2 guys get tossed right out as soon as the trainer blew his whistle. My friends don't believe me, Cecil. Can you back me up? Also, do monkeys make good pets? Tom M., Chicago.
Tom, it just so happens that your story is very believable. Tell that to your so-called friends. Chimpanzees look so cute trucking around on their little roller skates, wearing funny hats and going ook, 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 ook. But when roused, they're vicious little bastards and not to be messed with.
Chimps and baboons, many monkeys, are very strong physically compared to people. It has to do with the physical geometry of their muscles and bones, but pound for pound, they're a lot stronger than we are. Even a 10 or 15-pound monkey is about all I can physically manage. I do know some people who have worked with chimps in zoos that have been severely injured. They've had fingers bitten off or other things like that.
Blessed with a muscle structure far superior to Homo sapiens, chimps can handle almost anything that comes along. But it's a lot easier to get a chimp in roller skates than it is to get him to pump iron. So most of the data on chimp strength is anecdotal and pretty unscientific.
Chimps would be considered to be about 3 or 4 times as strong as a human being, as a strong human being.
In tests at the Bronx Zoo in 1924, a dynamometer was erected in the monkey house. It's a scale that measures the mechanical force of a pull on a spring. A 165-pound male chimpanzee named Boma registered a pull of 847 pounds.
Whoa, strong chimp.
A 165-pound man, by comparison, could manage a one-handed pull of about 210 pounds. Even more frightening, a female chimp weighing a mere 135 pounds and going by the name of Suzette checked in with a one-handed pull of 1,260 pounds. And get this, she was in a fit of passion at the time.
We got a winner!
It has to do with their anatomy and their physique in a lot of ways, and the fact that they can also, if you think about chimpanzees can travel through the trees and they have a lot of strength in their arms.
Is that where most of their strength lies, is their arms?
Absolutely, especially if you look at the gorillas. Well, you can see their legs are a lot shorter than their arms, and that's kind of part of their physique, is that their arms are a lot bigger and more muscular, and their legs aren't as important. It's not like us, where our legs are usually a little bit more muscular and longer.
In deadlifts, chimps have been known to manage weights of 600 pounds without even breaking into a sweat. A male gorilla could probably heft an 1,800-pound weight and not even think twice about it. As you might deduce, therefore, the word on keeping chimps as pets is a big negatory. Chimpanzees can never be fully domesticated. They're aggressive by nature. Sooner or later, they'll start to threaten their keepers in subtle ape ways that the untrained eye won't recognize. Until one day, blammo.
As they get older, as they mature, they're going to start thinking, well, now's my time to become the leader of the group, to become physically dominant. And once they get to be about 4 or 5 years old, then they're going to start to become sexually mature, and as they do that, they'll think, well, now's my time to take over the group. And being as physically powerful as they are, they're going to be able to overcome anybody who's a person in the household.
But maybe you're thinking, I'll just keep the little beast until it starts to act tough and then toss it back into the jungle. Wrong. The chimpanzee brought up in captivity won't be accepted by its brothers in the wild. Shunned, the citified chimp will either starve to death or be set upon by a simian hit squad. No matter how you look at it, keeping a chimp as a pet is dangerous and inhumane. Don't do it.
If I did not know an animal and it was angry at me, it could really do some damage to me. If I threatened it in any way, I would be very afraid.
You know, certain body parts are less popular than others, but that doesn't mean they're less important. Dare say so. In my early years, before I knew what a Kleenex was, I always knew the function of those little vertical ridges that run from the nose to the upper lip. Now that I've grown to the full flower of adulthood, however, I'm curious. What are those ridges really for? And what are they called? Annie, Dallas.
Nasal nose ridge trench.
Nose ridges?
Nose
No.
It's a mustache
area. Well, Annie, it's good to know your personal hygiene has improved so much since childhood. But those little ridges are still doing the job Mother Nature intended them for, which has nothing to do with keeping your chin clean.
The nosolectomies?
The ridges protect a particular sensitive spot in the skull where 3 bones meet, 2 from the sides, 1 from the top. The last being the device that keeps your nostrils separate.
There are areas that, and you can see perhaps some fine lines on the bone. The fine lines or ridges on the bone, representing here and here, are actually the areas where the bone has come together. These are called the sutures. And there are small areas here near the incisive teeth that have joined with these 2 areas, the palatine shelves and the intermaxillary segment, just their formal names. There are 3 areas that need to come together here to form the palate, and the overlying skin then has to come together and grow over it.
Almost every animal has them, all the way down to lizards. In humans, the ridges develop after 14 weeks of gestation. If they fail to appear, the child is born with an unfortunate condition known as cleft lip.
Basically what it is the nose as it comes across, and it's normally forming. If it doesn't fuse when it meets in the middle, then you get a cleft lip. And that's why you always notice that the cut's never right down the middle. It's always a little to the side or a little to the side here. And that's because the nose forms by moving together that way. And actually the hole, the nares on each side, is formed by the convergence of 2 pieces of tissue together. So that convergence forms the edges.
The ridges themselves aren't graced with a name, but the depression between them is. It's a cute one. Philtrum. That's so cute.
I guess it would be like, right there.
My philtrum is here.
The ancient Greeks, who liked their whimsy as much as the next civilization, thought the lips resembled the shape of Cupid's bow. The philtrum, then, metaphorically, represented the grip, the center of Cupid's power.
Nice philtrum. Did you see her philtrum?
There's a word for what we have to do now, and that word is commercials. But the show is not over. We still got the straight dope on why some body hair grows longer than others, and why some bizarre shortwave radio stations broadcast only numbers. And we're going behind the scenes of a funeral parlor to find out how our bodies are prepared for burial. You'd be a fool not to stay tuned.
Stay tuned for more of The Straight Dope here on A&E.
All right, we're coming back. Seriously, we are. As a great philosopher, B. Seeger once said, I feel like a number, but damn it, I'm a man. Apparently, he never listened to shortwave radio. Dear Cecil, while scanning the shortwave radio, I discovered a station broadcasting 5-digit numbers in Spanish and English. Each number was repeated twice before a new one was broadcast. It lasted about 25 minutes, then ended abruptly. What are these number stations? Are they somehow tied into the CIA or drug smuggling? Michael P.
Someone's saying numbers.
Look, I know Mike sounds kind of paranoid, but he's right. It's likely spies.
Yeah, pardon me, do you have clearance here?
There are dozens of number stations, some of which have been in business for decades, yet no government or private agency has ever acknowledged them. The stations broadcast in a variety of formats, using 3, 4, and 5 digits at a time, in languages ranging from English and Spanish to Czech, Korean, and Serbo-Croatian.
5, 1, 5, 5, 3, 7, 2, 0, 0, 1, 6, 5, 7, 3.
The red wolf cries at night when he's lonely.
The voice is often female, and its unchanging inflection suggests that it may be machine-generated, like those wrong number recordings used by the phone company.
Nope, man.
Messages have a definite beginning and end. They start with a count of how many number groups the message will contain. Each group is repeated carefully. All the groups have the same number of digits, a standard feature of modern cryptography.
I'm sorry, that's classified.
Interestingly, the volume of coded message traffic doesn't seem to have dropped much with the end of the Cold War. But that makes sense. Even if the spy business slowed down, you'd want to keep the code numbers booming out at the same rate, or else the bad guys would know when you expand your agent roster later.
The sound has been spoken.
End of transmission.
Ever have a bad hair day? It's not fun, believe me, I know. Hey, Mr. Razakis, can I see the back, please? Yes. I'm sorry. It's the third time. You're gonna kill me, but it's still a little too long. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is that all right? I'm sorry. Are you sure? Yeah, you better give a little more off there, too. Yeah, thank you. Dear Cecil, why does head hair, as well as beard hair, I think, grow indefinitely, whereas hair on the rest of the human body grows to a certain length and then stops? Kim M., Washington, D.C. What makes you think scalp hair grows indefinitely, Kim? Didn't you ever listen to the title song from Hair? Don't ever have to cut it, 'cause it stops by itself. Each scalp and beard hair grows 2 to 6 years before stopping, attaining a typical maximum length of 2 to 3 feet. Then it becomes dormant for about 3 months, whereupon a new hair starts growing and pushes the old one out of the follicle from behind. Oof. That's why even someone who's not balding loses 70 to 100 head hairs a day.
The hair on your arm is a different diameter than the hair that comes out of, well, I assume comes out of your head.
At some point.
The hair on your head is thicker, and it has basically a different mechanical property than the hair on your arm.
With long hair, chicks dig you more.
There is a definite change in men, for instance, as they get older, where the hairs actually become thinner, not just go away, but they become thinner, and that's part of the process of the hair going away gradually.
And what starts that process of the hair leaving the body? Is it bad follicles?
Bad genes.
Is that what it is?
Bad genes.
You can't blame anyone but
testosterone, and it's your dad.
Is that what it comes from? Because I've always heard it's my mom's dad's hair that I'm going to get.
Well, you blame whoever you want to.
By comparison, the growth cycle for other body hair is only a few weeks, so it doesn't get very long. Maximum scalp hair length varies greatly among individuals. So, Mr. Razakis, how long have you been cutting hair?
About close 40 years.
Close to 40 years?
Yeah.
You're starting to get the hang of it?
Yeah.
I went to go do a haircut on my own, I should say, and I kind of missed.
Excuse me, can I borrow your scrunchie?
So I decided just to go with the cool look this summer.
Diane Witt of Worcester, Massachusetts is the all-time hair length champ. Her hair grows at the rate of about a ½ inch per month. And at the time of this picture, she had a hair length of 12 feet, 8 inches.
Put it in the
Twice
barn.
as long as she is tall. I know you don't want to hear this, but it's commercial time again. Wait, they'll be over like... Then we're going to talk about what a body has to go through before burial. My suggestion, stick around. You made it this far. Don't quit now.
He's right, you know.
All right, we're coming back. Seriously, we are. Many of us fear death. But maybe that's because we've made it such a mystery. Let's end that now. Dear Cecil, I need to know a few things about the way a person is buried. First, is the corpse completely dressed? Shoes, underwear, etc.? In the case of a man, is the penis altered in any way? Also, how would the corpse look and smell after 6 months or a year? And how difficult is it to open an exhumed casket? A pseudo-necrophiliac, Baltimore. Okay, that's a great question, but it seems like you're planning something. Put down the shovel.
A lot of people feel a wooden casket has a little warmer look to it. A lot of times we have carpenters that die, and those are caskets that are chose for those type of people. In fact, we bury people with sometimes their hammer with them, believe it or not.
Really?
Different things like that. Families will come in and say, this was something he always did. I've had a funeral service where we even had to leave a trombone. He was a trombonist.
If an autopsy has been performed, the mortician may be required to sew the body back together. But generally, he does not experiment with his client's components, including their privy members, if they have one. I would urge the viewers to repress their deviant fantasies in this area, or else.
I'm a good guy, and I'm going to heaven.
You see these scars? I look like I'm afraid to die.
What's that?
I've been dead twice already. Cut with a straight razor.
Ouch!
Did 10 years in prison for killing the guy who did to me.
So you've seen a dead body then?
Are you kidding me? You made me break my cigarette.
My father-in-law dropped dead in front of me one day.
My sister-in-law died a couple weeks ago.
Oh, no, I'm sorry to hear that.
I didn't like her.
This is a room where most people don't get to see. We do not allow really people to see an embalming process, and I don't think many funeral homes do. I think it's something that's professionally, we don't feel comfortable with anyone seeing an embalming, but we surely have no problem of you seeing the embalming room. The embalming takes place here. You can see a couple of different embalming tables here. The embalming table right here is the one that we use most often, and this is what we call an embalming machine, and it is mixed with fluid and water. And these are different types of fluids that we use for the embalming process. We place it and mix it with water in this machine.
I've died before.
Have you?
Yes. Nice experience.
He was their hero, and they mourned him. He had lived a life of thrills and confusion. He had known the peaks of glory and the valleys of despair.
I was just curious, what are the differences in these chemicals and what do they do? What does each chemical do?
Well, the difference is really in the strength of fluids. When a person is what we call a Demas type person, where we have a lot of water that's built up in a person, we have different fluids that we can dry that out with to bring the swollenness down. And of course there's other fluids that have to bring people up when people have died and lose a lot of weight. There's fluids that we can use to help fill that tissue. An embalming process is removing the fluids from the body, which could splash, so you're protecting yourself with this outfit on.
It is possible to preserve a corpse for extended periods, as in the case of a medical cadaver, but this requires a strong solution of embalming fluid, which results in a leathery, decidedly unlifelike appearance.
You would already have your fluids mixed before you do this. You've already washed and cleansed the body, basically, physically. You've already closed the mouth and closed the eyes. Basically,
How do you do that?
just by doing this. That's it. It's easy.
Under the most favorable circumstances, a body after 6 months in the grave would simply be discolored and possibly covered with mold. If the body has had the misfortune to have been sealed in an airtight metal casket, though, anaerobic bacteria, that is, those that thrive in an airless environment, will have had a chance to get to work, and the body will have putrefied, meaning it will be partially liquefied. The smell in such cases is indescribable.
Back to decomposition. First of all, it's a funeral director and embalmer's nightmare because of the smell. There's nothing worse than a body decomposing. That's where most people are found because they smell something in the trunk, you know. And that just gives me another thought. When a person drowns in a cold lake, they go down to the bottom and usually remain there. But as we all know, sooner or later, when the warm weather comes, somebody finds that person on the beach because it has gotten gassed up and it has gotten buoyancy, and then we call it a floater. A floater is a decomposition body that's been in the water for quite a while.
Simple wooden caskets, believe it or not, often result in more gradual decomposition. Getting into a wooden casket, which rots readily, is no big deal. But the situation is different with one of those impregnable metal sarcophagi that most people seem to be buried in nowadays. There you may have an inner liner that's bolted shut, an outer liner sealed with cement, and the whole thing placed inside a massive concrete burial vault. Getting all this open ain't easy.
We have over here what we call a metal sealed inner casket, and we just have it sitting here just in case. In fact, we even have screws here, and inside there's a rubber gasket that we tighten down to keep that basic smell from exposing itself to our funeral home and the people that are going to be around.
I feel obliged to point out that the robbing of graves is generally regarded as a form of criminal trespass and is punishable by fine and/or imprisonment, in case anybody's tempted into it by the appetizing details we just talked about.
If there is a heaven, yeah, you know, I hope I go there, but I don't know.
Actually, I'm going to keep this with me so that when I go to the bars and I meet women, now I feel like I'm prepared for today's problems, if you know what I mean.
People like yourself or like myself or the people that are around us today looking as healthy as can be dead tomorrow. You leave here, you're on the Dan Ryan going back to wherever, boom, it's over.
Well, we're done, but you're not leaving here empty-headed. Now go out and share this new knowledge with some friends, but don't be a bore. I'm Mike Lukas. See you next week.
Is there something you need to get straight? For fast temporary relief of ignorance, send email to Cecil at shyreader.com or visit him on America Online. Send snail mail care of the Chicago Reader or consult the collected works, available at enlightened bookstores everywhere.